Hey, this is Alberto from Two Brothers. I'm going to keep this little introduction short so that way you guys can enjoy the episode that was never released for quite a long time up until today. I'll give you a brief kind of update on what's going on with the podcast as of right now. So, we are still in the process of uh, finding equipment, some better equipment that we can use for the podcast. Trust me, I'm just as eager to come back and start recording with Edgar, with Maurice, and start recording some episodes. We've got a lot of great ideas stored away, a lot of reviews for video games we have to get back to. I don't think I reviewed Elden Ring, so that certainly is going to be on the list for some episodes. But thank you guys for being patient. And as a way of saying thank you, I want to drop this episode that I never got around to releasing. It is a little series that hopefully we'll be able to do in the future called Creator Spotlight, where we talk about certain comic book creators that we admire and adore and talk about some of their work. And for this episode in particular, it is about Scott Snyder. So he is one of the best comic book writers out there right now. If you don't know who he is, then just obviously you're going to listen and find out. So I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you for being so patient. For all you guys out there who are still waiting for a new episode to drop, hopefully this guy, this guy, oh my god, this episode will tide you over till then. So thank you. Yes, we are still around. We have just been busy, all of us, working on different things. I have been working on my book, my second novel. I won't get into that right now. I think we'll leave that for another episode as well. So yeah, enjoy this unreleased bonus Two Brothers episode.
This is the funnest night ever!
Yeah, quit yanking our anuses! Two people get together, do something social, have a few drinks, yada yada yada.
It's called Two Brothers. Two Brothers. It's just called Two Brothers.
Welcome to an episode of Two Brothers.
No clapping this time?
No
Welcome
clapping this
to-
time. We're doing things differently. We're not clapping this time. And tonight's episode it's going to be a series that we're going to do in the future. And it's one that I'm actually excited about doing because it's different from what we've usually talked about. We've been talking about like retrospectives and just fucking, video games and all this shit. But this is something that I'm really excited about.
Same here.
And it's not a fucking super cool creative title or whatever, but we're calling it Creator Spotlight. And it more has to do with comic books. Maybe we'll do it with video games or something later down the line, but we're mostly going to focus on comic book creators that we want to spotlight, and hopefully we can get people into this particular writer's, comic books. And of course, we had to do Scott Snyder,
The one and only.
for our first episode of this series. And we've talked about him before on the podcast when we've done like comic book recommendations and shit like that. But we never really talked about who he is and why we love him as a writer so much, and how he's kind of impacted us, I think, into collecting comic books. He was a big part.
I feel
in
like
collecting
he...
them.
Well, yeah, but to me, I feel like he mostly impacted you writing. The way he describes, the way he writes his comic books and stuff like that, you know? Not only you, anyone who's listening to this or know who he is,
Yeah, he's had an influence on those people too.
So, yeah.
And we're gonna talk about some of his work, some of our favorite projects of his, and just about him in general, so that way people can get to know him and know who he is and how he got his start into comic books, which I feel like you know more about. But I certainly know my fair share of Scott Snyder. But let's get into it, man.
All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about the one, the greatest of all
Scott
time.
Snyder of DC comic books.
So just quick, just little things here and there about him.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing, well, like one of his first jobs was working at Disneyland,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and he was a custodian there. And he said he had that's like one of his favorite time and one of his favorite jobs working there.
Uh-huh.
And he worked that for a while. Then he would jump.
Wouldn't you do like the actual characters? Right?
He would do actual characters, and the
Yeah.
one that he talked about, he did Buzz Lightyear.
Well, I remember. Yeah, he did Buzz Lightyear.
But he did that for a while, and the people there was considering him to be a Prince Charming for China or Japan.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure, but they were considering because he was the right height and all that
Oh,
shit.
okay.
And he said, I might take that,
Dude, we were this close to not having Scott
Right?
Snyder as a comic book writer.
But around that time, he was also writing. He was writing short stories here and there for publications, but he wasn't going anywhere. But
Well, he got picked for a few stuff, right? Like some of his short stories got picked out from
yeah,
to be highlighted. and stuff
but that
like
was
yeah,
it. But
that was really the extent of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
he got the attention from both Marvel and DC,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't do a lot of work in Marvel. He only did.
Yeah, he didn't.
He only did. I got it right here. He did a one shot, which I didn't know was a Human Torch one shot.
Oh, okay.
And the Iron Man Noir. It's a 4 limited series.
That one I didn't know. Yeah.
We have it. I haven't read it yet. I should have, so can.
Yeah, I
talk
don't think
about
I've read that either. So.
But fuck, we got a stockpile of fucking comics we haven't read. So
Yeah.
sorry about that. But okay. Then he moved to not Dark Horse, Vertigo.
Vertigo, yeah, and he did
He did his first his first title. Sorry, was American Vampire.
American Vampire, right?
And oh my god, it's like a good blend of vampire and like the old western, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the story is it kind of it has two stories. Like the first arc has two stories. The first story is based in the 1920s in L.A. about this girl named Pearl who is wanting to become a actor, and basically she went to this, let's say, party or whatever. She gets murdered, or I just keep it a mystery.
Yeah.
And
Well, you just said you got murdered.
but
so
murdered by who though?
oh, okay.
But but she gets saved by a vampire named Skinner Sweet, and he makes her into a vampire, and basically she gets her story is basically getting her revenge.
It's like a revenge thing.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
dude, when I first picked that up, it was just I think it's his name is Ralph Albuquerque. I think is the one who draws.
Who drew it? The
Yeah.
illustrator?
It just sticks out like an anime, like an animated film or something like that. But he also worked with that title with Stephen King,
American Vampire?
and Stephen King does the short stories. So once you're done reading the
Like the main actual arc, right?
yeah, then he does the short stories back in the Western time.
That's pretty cool.
So it jumps back and forward.
It's so cool because didn't he got his start for his love of writing from Stephen King?
Yeah.
Stephen King story. So it must have been really cool to work with him in that capacity. You know?
Yeah, he met him at his house and they talked about it.
That's so fucking cool, man.
And during that time, he passed by his desk and he saw just a glimpse. And I think he was working on the book Under the Dome. I think that was called.
Oh yeah.
He was working on that.
Hadn't it become a TV show? Like for a while or something?
I think they're working to become a TV show, or it is. I don't know, but
I feel like it was, but maybe I'm
Right?
just
It
fucking
feels-
tripping. I don't know. I think that happened a while ago, but yeah.
And that got the attention of DC. His work,
American Vampire?
So yeah, they wanted him to work the Detective Comics.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
The Black Mirror story, which
Oh.
if you want to jump in and
Yeah.
tell us.
Black Mirror is, because I love Court of Owls too, but I think Black Mirror I keep coming back to every so often and I reread it again, it is one of my favorite Batman stories that don't include Batman.
Yeah.
Because you have Dick Grayson
As Batman, no?
as Batman for a short stint and everything, and the way that Scott Snyder wrote Dick Grayson as Batman was so fucking cool because, well, first off, the art is amazing. It's made by Jock,
Yeah.
and he really makes the comic book feel like almost like a detective, like noir feel to it when you read the comic book. But it's one of the few times where you see a Batman, not the Batman, but you see a Batman like smile on one of the panels. And that was so fucking cool to me when I read that. It has such an interesting story, and this is one of the things that we're going to continue talking about it as we go further into the episode. But Scott Snyder just knows how to reinvent the wheel when it comes to characters, and he really knows how to add more layers on top of what's already an established character like Batman. And he did that with the Black Mirror. He did it with was introducing James Gordon's son, who is like a psychopath and shit like that. They introduce, his name is the Collector? I don't think his name is the Collector, right? Or some guy, right? He holds this like secret society where they sell fucking weapons that were used before, like makes them out to be like these mythical fucking artifacts. And in one of the panels, they're holding up the fucking crowbar that the Joker used to beat the shit out of fucking Jason Todd. And I was like, oh my god, like Scott Snyder's really taking it there, man. This shit's fucking dark.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that it involves Dick Grayson and not Bruce Wayne. You know, because you could see how Dick Grayson handles the situation.
When I first read it, what the fuck? Where's Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
But besides that point, it's just like I was so intrigued with the story. It always end of every issue left you with a cliffhanger. I'm like, God, all right, gotta read the next one. Like that type of thing, because we bought it as a trade paperback, and I think that's the best way to read that, because
it also collects other stories too. Yeah. So you have the whole experience in there.
Yeah.
So one thing I liked about that story was when it begins, it starts with like almost, he calls it cold opens, you know, Scott Snyder, where he kind of talks about a thing that doesn't really pertain to the story until later on, and then you realize, oh shit, he's kind of interlinking what he said in the beginning of the comic later on and shit. But it's like this juxtaposition of like, because Dick Grayson wakes up in his room and everything, and Alfred comes in and tells him like, hey, you know, this room is empty, you know, you can make this your home now, like fill it up with stuff and shit. Like, then Dick Grayson is like no, like I'm not that kind of person. There's not really anything that I hold any attachment to, or not really I want to decorate my room with. And then it's like at the very end of Black Mirror, he finds it's like it calls back to that again.
Yeah.
It ends with that same, and I'm just, oh man, that to me as a aspiring writer, like, fuck man. And even to this day, I don't even know if I could ever like do something like that. Scott Snyder's like a fucking master at crafting stories, man.
Well, you should have saved your words for that one.
Oh my gosh.
Because he said the same thing because he got a lot of praise and people loved the work that he did in Detective Comics with that Black Mirror arc. And you know what? We're relaunching all these DC characters, New 52. Yeah. And we want you to do Batman. And he said, fuck.
like basically, shit, I don't know if I could do that, right?
That's like especially for a writer like that, anyone, I would say, taking the mantle for Batman is like, fuck.
It's very daunting.
If you fuck up, man. Like it's like, people love Batman, so he was like, shit, man, I don't know if I can do this, but he had to, you know. What?
No, go ahead. Before I add.
No, what we're gonna go do now, basically, this is like the meat of the story with Scott Snyder, because for right here with the New 52, dude, he started a lot of work with Batman until now. So
no, I was gonna say, because I wanted to go back a little bit to the whole Disney thing. I was reading most trusted site, Wikipedia, when he was talking about what exactly, I think he said that his time at Disney really shaped him as a writer.
Yeah.
Because he started to confront the fears that, you know, he had at the time and at that age, you know, like the fear of commitment and growing up and love and change and all this stuff that he was really afraid of shaped him as a writer, because he used those fears and put them in his comic books and in his stories.
Yeah.
And it really shows in the first arc of Batman with the Court of Owls. It's this whole thing about like how Bruce Wayne doesn't really know Gotham City like he thought he did. And it completely disorients him, and he realizes, oh shit, there's more to this place that I used to call home. Feels foreign to me. And I don't know, I really liked what he did there with that, like how he compared it to his own life at the time when he started writing for DC comic books. You kind of felt a bit like oh shit, all this is really new to me and everything. And oh, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, thanks,
continue.
Howard.
Yeah.
Thanks, kidding. No, you did good. Yeah. So the team up between Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, like, if at first they didn't get along, right? And I think about it like, I don't see anyone else do the drawings of besides Greg Capullo. Like, who would have stepped in? You know?
Oh yeah, that would have. Yeah, you were right when you were saying that they started off pretty rocky. And continue. I'll
yeah.
add, yeah.
No, it's just like you can listen to it on YouTube, and they always talk about it. You know. So I guess how it would work is Scott Snyder would email him fucking like a whole script of fucking like every detail in there, and Greg Capullo's like, "Come on, man, just give me the important stuff."
Yeah,
that's
like,
how I work.
Like, don't send me this fucking book.
Don't send me a book. Just send me the important shit, and I'll work around it. And Scott Snyder would say, "No, everything's important. I want everything to be there."
Yeah, he was like really offended. He was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? All this shit is important."
And Greg Capullo tells him, like, "Look at this guy, fucking telling me how to work."
And then Scott Snyder was like, "Look at this guy telling me how to fucking work." It's like this butting heads thing.
And you wanted to throw shade, not shade, but like, I bet your parents, to Scott Snyder, he's like, I bet your parents are proud of you, huh?
Yeah.
And he took it as like
a compliment. Yeah. Like, he didn't know that he was like fucking with.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, my parents are proud of me. Like, you know.
Like, thank you for asking. Yeah.
And they were saying, like, Greg Capullo's like, dude, I worked with with the best, you know, like Todd McFarlane.
He started listing
off
all
like
this
this is how they work. Just send me the good shit, the important stuff. And Scott would do the same things. Like, you know what? I'm one of the best writers too. I want Eisner.
This fucking, like, did this. I wrote with Stephen King.
But Scott eventually, just gave him the important stuff, and
they started.
And he would send them, okay, what do you think about this? And Scott was like, oh shit, like, you're fucking like, hey,
you're right. This shit is good.
Yeah.
You're like, I should condense it.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool how that's how it, at first they worked, So
no, I was gonna say that, like, it's so weird how they started off as kind of enemies, I guess you could say, and now they're like inseparable.
They're like brothers.
They call each other brothers and everything. They're so close knit, and everything that they do is like. They're like a dynamic duo, kind of, It's like
they are.
You can't have one without the other. It's so weird because of how they started out and versus how they are now. They're like electric, They're like fucking a lightning in a bottle kind of thing. Every time they write something, and without getting too personal, I think I even told you, like, that whole story of how they became friends. Reminded me of how I became friends with Alan from Big Five. Like, I don't know if he hears the podcast, but
let us know, Alan.
No, but at first he introduced himself at work as like, I'm the dick of the place or whatever like that, or something like that. And I thought to myself, like, oh, this guy's he's gonna cause me some headaches. I don't know about this guy. And him and I would never really talk for like I think maybe almost a month.
Uh-huh.
And every time I would see him, it's gonna sound funny saying it now, but he looked kind of intimidating. You know, he had the beard. He's a tall dude. He looked like he can handle himself. Like, I should probably steer clear from this fucking guy. I don't know if he's gonna start problems with me. And no, man, we ended up bonding over Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and then we started talking about video games and comic books. I'm like, damn, this guy knows his shit. He knows more shit than I do sometimes too, with like anime and manga and all this. He introduced me to Ready Player One, and I was like, dude, yeah, this guy, I'm glad to call him a friend. Kind of like how Scott Snyder did with Greg Capullo. So I just found that really interesting. You know,
well, now that you put it that way, that's how I kind of met my friend Josh.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if he's listening to this shit too, but yeah, like I remember going into work one day. It was during the holidays. Or about to begin with the holidays, and I was thinking, man, I should quit my job. I don't like it anymore. And I go to my department, and he's there, and he's the new guy, and they introduced me to him.
Yeah.
Dude, I still remember what he was wearing. I don't think he does. Because look at this preppy guy. Like, dude, don't take it so seriously, right? He had a fucking, like, a white shirt, like a dress shirt, and a tie.
Oh, you had a tie on?
Yeah, it's like he
looked all
yeah, he was all professional, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was planning to quit anyway, so I didn't want to make any friends. But throughout the night, we had to close, you know, if people know how to work retail. We had to do one side, and the other people do the other side, and I was stuck with Josh, right? And he's
like it's a bad thing.
I know. and he was all right throughout the day, but when they put us together to, you know, clean up, he's the one who started talking to me like, hey, what are you into, man? What type of music you're into? What, you play video games?
Yeah.
And little by little, I'm like, fuck, man, we're becoming friends right now.
This preppy guy is gonna be my best friend.
And he became one of my best friends. He just talking. He was just like, what are you playing? Like, or what do you listen to? Like, just stuff like that. And oh fuck, man, he's fucking cool.
Yeah.
And that's how we became friends, man. And it's kind of like the same way with Alan.
I think all of us have a Greg Capullo in our lives, you know, someone who fucks with us, someone who like pushes us to. You know,
or
pushes
the other way around, the Scott Snyder.
Yeah, we have a Scott Snyder in our life. Yeah, I don't know if Alan listens to it, but he's a good friend of mine, and I don't know. Just when you talked about Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo being, or how they started out, I can't help but think about that. You know,
no, me neither. When you were talking about your friend Alan, I'm like, that's kind of the way I met my friend Josh too.
No, man, I don't want to just have this be like a friends podcast, but no, he's a good friend, and so just like Scott Snyder.
You kind of already covered Court of Owls
a little bit, yeah.
And I want to talk about how do you say? How should I put this? Like, they said no to DC, basically. You know, let's see if you can put in your 2 cents right after the story. And I think you already know this story is. I think one of the later issues, I think it's 3 or 4 of the Court of Owls. But one of the issues, I guess you had to flip it. And it
was like kind of like a sideways thing. Right?
Sideways.
You had to hold the comic differently, yeah.
And it didn't turn out well while printing. Like it was like it looked like it was a error.
Yeah.
And and Scott Snyder got it early, and he saw it, and
he freaked out.
And he texted, "No, it's like it's meant to be to look this way. It's not an error, guys." And Greg Capullo's like, "Dude, it's like don't
stand your ground. Don't be a little bitch. Just fucking stand your ground.
Don't say that. It's like, if they get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't." And then Greg Capullo got his, and he said, "Oh shit, it's a error."
Yeah, they both thought it was an error and everything. Yeah.
But and that was a cool little story because
it wouldn't be the first time that they would have to fight for something that they wanted to add into their books. Later on, we'll talk about what they had to fight with death metal. But Another thing I wanted
You
to
mean,
add about Scott. What?
Dark Knight Death Metal.
No, Dark Knight Metal.
Yeah,
That's it.
not Death Metal.
Death Metal's
that's
the next one.
Yeah.
No, but another thing I want to add about Scott Snyder and with his run with Batman, or I guess you could say really with all of his work, is he always projected his fear onto those his work, you know, and I think that's what made his version of Batman so unique, is because he always added a bit of himself onto Batman, and he even mentioned it before to people who are aspiring writers. It's like, you know, write something that you're afraid about and put it into a book. You know, make that your story. And if you're wanting to get into comic books, like, don't let DC or Marvel stop you from doing what you want to do. Like, write the fanfic, you know, the fan fiction of it, and create what your version of the superhero was or is. And it's so great to see, even to this day, when he was writing Batman with Dark Knight's Metal or Death Metal, there's always something new, a new layer he adds of a fear that he has of his onto Batman and onto Bruce Wayne. And I don't know, I just thought that was so cool. He does that a lot in his work with Noctera or like The Wake or Witches. There's always some new thing that he's presenting into his comic books that is really related to himself and in his life. And I think that's very interesting and important as a writer too, is to write what you're afraid of, you know, write the fears you have. I don't want to just put a plug in there, but that's what I'm writing with Closers. And obviously we think we talked about me doing an episode of just that, of Closers, but that's why it's so intimate, like this project of mine of Closers, is because I'm writing stuff that scares me, stuff that I'm dealing with. And I don't think I really did that too much with the first book. But with the second book, I'm doing that a lot. And I did it because of Scott Snyder, because of what he said in his interviews and like the advice he gave to aspiring writers. And that's what I'm putting into that book, you know? So I don't know. That's how you know Scott Snyder influences my life and in my work with writing.
Yeah, that's two brothers.
That's
All right. But, okay, that was the first, I guess the first story was Court of Owls, and I think it jumps to Death
Year, right?
of the Family. Not
It was
Death
Death of the Family first and then 0 Year or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we always can get it confused because there's another one called Death in the Family.
Which was done a long time ago.
Yeah. And this one, oh my God, man. He gives another layer to the Joker, more cynical, more scary about him. Kind of like more like a Michael Myers type of thing, like he's in the shadows type of thing.
Yeah.
Like he appears, you know, when you're not there type of thing, you know? Like, this is where he fucking technically ripped his fucking face off and stapled it, you know? And again, when I read it too, it had that sense of, you know, like, yeah, like Michael Myers, like he's
like
always
an
there.
all-being thing.
All-being thing, right?
Omnipresent.
Yeah.
It's called, right? Yeah. Which was a new thing for Joker, too. And that's what Scott Snyder contributed to his character for Joker. Yeah, man, it felt like a horror story more than anything, to be quite honest. And, you know, obviously Scott Snyder has taken his influences from Stephen King and, you know, with American Vampire and all that. Like, he knows horror as well. And to see him add a little bit of that in Batman was pretty fucking cool.
Like, I can't do him justice the way he talks about it. If you want to listen more about Death of the Family, he talks about it, and not in length, but for a while in Fat Man on Batman.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Smith.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Hopefully still there, because I saved it on our YouTube thing. But
yeah, we listened to that a lot, man.
And he talks about it in a little more in depth of how yeah, like you said, he put a layer of what he was scared of, basically.
Yeah.
And I just don't remember what it was, but he wanted to add another element to Batman and the Joker and stuff. And I think that at the end of the issue, the end of the story, they didn't introduce the The element, the HA.
Oh yeah, the HA element and all that. It was very clever, man. It was
Right?
really cool.
That was so fucking clever right there.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do something like kind of like when you know the Joker's around. I'm fucking butchering it, but to show like when the Joker's around or whatever is there's a fly every time he
I was
appears.
like foreshadowing, kind of like what they did with, or how people theorize that fucking. When they showed a fly in WandaVision or some shit, I was like, oh, that's Mephisto.
Yeah.
Kind of that.
Kind of like that, yeah. So throughout that story, there's a fucking fly, and that kind of even Greco-Poulos, he talked about it too. That's like kind of like
for foreshadowing.
foreshadowing.
Like an omen.
Like an omen.
That's the word I had in my head. Yeah.
It's an omen type of thing in there. And when the Joker, when Bruce is in the Batcave and he, I guess, breaks down the Joker toxin, it makes HA.
Yeah.
And one of the panels, it shows the fly landing on the screen, and that's how it ends.
Oh my god,
So,
that's so fucking cool.
Right?
Yeah, so fucking cool, man. Yeah, I really like that story. Behind Court of Owls, that's where I would put it. But there's so many.
Like,
Let's keep going.
No, yeah. Before we continue, like Court of Owls, I would say for anyone who wants to jump into comics, especially someone who's into Batman, I would say that's a great fucking story to jump into.
Yeah, it's a great starting point. You don't really need to know a lot about the character. You know, if you know his origin story, I think that's more than enough. The New 52 is for people who don't know, it's like a relaunching point. It kind of just wiped the slate clean kind of thing. And I think Scott Snyder did that masterfully with Court of Owls, and people can really jump into that. And it has some pretty good fucking moments in that
Story, yeah. Now we jump to Zero Year.
That one I have not read, but you have.
I have.
So,
It's basically his own take of Year One, basically.
which is 0 Year.
Yeah, 0 Year. And it just shows it's way different than Frank Miller's Year One. Kind of the same thing. He left a whole year and comes back. And he just talks about that whole year when he becomes Batman. And he takes down and they call him Red Hood 1. So yeah, basically that's one of his enemies throughout that story arc, and it builds up, has a build up to this story, and the build up is that Riddler is one of the main villains in the story, and without giving a lot away, is basically he blows up the reservoir of Gotham and floods the whole city.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so it becomes, there's no electricity. He has the power for that. Like, he has the...
So it becomes like a fucking, like a concrete jungle kind of thing. It was like
good way to put it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, I don't want to spoil a lot, because to me, I feel like one of my favorite Batman stories.
0 Year.
0 Year, because he did it. Yeah, there's key moments throughout 0 Year that how do you say he brings back from the old comics. Like, there's this panel where it's I think it's one of the Detective Comics, is where when he's swinging and he has like a criminal under his hand. It's the one that you wanted to get for Alex Ross, remember?
Oh, right,
That homage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a cover. But in this panel, he has one of the Red Hoods under him, and he's just flying, kind of like paying homage to the Detective Comics.
Uh-huh.
And one of the other ones is like he's hiding, like in one of those what do you call them, billboards? And he's like fucking like he has the wings of a bat. Like, just it's so fucking cool. Like, it's little things like that. I love this story. But it introduces a lot of new characters in this story arc of 0 Year, too. Which he uses later on as like Duke,
Oh, yeah. He becomes he becomes a Signal.
The Signal, yeah. So like that kind of his origin story also of Duke. So kind of that's his whole spin, and I don't want to spoil a lot because it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just with all of these, I feel like a brief synopsis will really do it because I don't want no one to be. I want people if they're interested in Scott Snyder, I want them to go into this blind. You know.
I want to say that his whole run of New 52 is the way to go if you want to jump into Batman or to get to know Greg Capullo as an artist or as Scott Snyder as a writer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then of course it continues with was it Endgame? Is the next
Endgame
one,
right after.
Which is also I've heard a lot of people say that they don't like Endgame, but from beginning to end, that whole arc was so fucking cool, and it feels like a blockbuster movie, you know. And I think that's one of the main things too with Scott Snyder is that he just wants to bring a lot of fun and back into comic books, you know, sort of like if you're just watching an MCU film, he tries to replicate that kind of feel, like you're. And he even mentioned it too. Like I think he said it with Death Metal. It's like a summer blockbuster movie type of event, and Endgame felt like that when I read it. And it was like from beginning to end was so fucking cool. What's the premise of Endgame? You know your fucking research, bitch. Don't shake your head at me.
Well, basically, is the Joker comes back, but before that, before knowing that it was the Joker behind all this, is Batman's being attacked by the Justice League, and he doesn't know why. And once he fights Superman, and the cool thing. This is the cool thing about it. He uses a kryptonite gum to defeat him.
It's pretty. I know some people go, "That's fucking stupid." How he was like,
but the way, if you read the whole panel, the whole thing, the way he does it, it's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Then he later he starts to notice that these guys start having grins.
Yeah, like the grins. Yeah.
And I guess what he did is he infected Gotham with it, and everyone has the toxin with him.
Yeah.
And everyone's after Batman. So.
And it's like that's like the sequel to basically Death of the Family, right?
Death of the Family, yeah.
And how it ends is pretty fucking cool. You know, it's like this fight between him and Joker, and it's like it's so nail biting. You don't know what's gonna happen, and I'm leaving it like that because I don't want to spoil it. Because I think we already spoiled how fucking Death of the Family ends. But, I don't want to spoil Endgame because that is really the
we didn't spoil a lot. It leaves. I would say. It leaves in a cliffhanger.
Death of the Family?
And I would say Endgame.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Because when I read them, fuck, is this really happening? Like, oh my god. Because that's around the time we got into comics. Mm-hmm. So all this was new to us. Like, with the Joker fighting Batman and like, not like, what we're trying to get here, like the story that we're reading, I mean.
Yeah.
Because it got so intense and so, like, when they fought was so brutal. Like, even fucking, I think Batman threw a fucking, like, batarang at his face, at his eye, right? Or no?
The Joker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it gets, like...
It gets pretty brutal, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. And Scott Snyder's not... Because we just talked about how dark Black Mirror was. Mm-hmm. He's, like I said, he's not afraid to kind of push things a little bit to the edge.
And it moves on to Super Heavy with
Gordon taking the mantle of Batman. A lot of people will say that that's kind of the low, the kind of the dipping point of New 52. You don't see Batman or Bruce Wayne. And James Gordon takes over as Batman, and he wears like this fucking almost like a RoboCop robot suit, and takes on the bad guys, and introduces Mr. Bloom, a new villain that I don't think we've even seen in a lot of other comic books except for Task Force Z. And there's not really much to say about that one, if I'm being honest, because I also kind of agree it's not the strongest, but you can tell, they're starting to wrap things up a little bit.
Because it was towards the end,
It was towards the end, and how fittingly that they ended it with 52 issues too.
All of them, well, not all of them, but mostly all of them ended in 52 issues.
Yeah.
But the thing is with that storyline with the Super Heavy is, damn, without even spoiling it, but there's a moment where, yeah, without spoiling it, you gotta read it, guys.
Yeah, that's what
you know
I'm
what
saying.
I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but
And
you
it
can't.
leaves you like, is it really him that he's talking to?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that one's kind of not his strongest story that he did, but you're right. Like, it's still interesting to read though.
And I feel looking back at it, it kind of makes sense when you finally realize what Scott Snyder had up his sleeve after New 52 when he did All-Star Batman. Is that what we're going to talk about?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. But
Or-
even though I kind of recommended it.
Well, I'm not going to really talk more,
No, go
more
ahead,
about
yeah.
All-Star, but I'm just saying that's where
Yeah.
that was the next thing that we had from Scott Snyder. And then
Dude, again, that's my other favorite story
it was so fucking good.
of Batman is
If you
All-Star.
if you guys don't know, just go back and watch our first comic book recommendations. I think that's where we talk about it. But yeah, All-Star is fucking great. And then he did Dark Knight's Metal, right? And that is unlike anything I've ever seen. I think I even mentioned it to you before. Dark Knight's Metal was like my Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh yeah.
It was highly anticipated.
Hour. You know,
Hour. Yeah,
this was a big event.
Highly anticipated, and again, this was something that Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder had to fight for, and I think we heard it like pretty recently. Like DC did not want to call it Dark Knight's Metal; they wanted to call it like another Crisis event. They want to have Crisis in the fucking title.
And even Greg Capullo's like, come on, since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's all the events is Crisis.
Yeah, it's always Crisis this,
like,
Crisis that. It's like, I know what they want.
Yeah.
I know what's gonna fucking work. Let's call it Dark Knight's Metal. And sure enough,
it blew off.
It blew off, and in such a fucking like exponentially like quick way, I guess you could say. Like, it created instant fucking icons with the Dark Knight. Is that what they call
Universe,
it? Yeah, and those different versions of Batman, like the Devastator, Merciless, the Drowned, and Red Death, and the Batman Who Laughs, which is like instantly recognizable now at this point. Murder Machine too.
Yeah. Before we continue, like, this is around, like we always say, this, around that time. That's like maybe we were a year into our comic book collection.
Yeah, I'll say a year or two.
But every time we walked into a comic book store, they were promoting the shit out of it.
Always.
And I was intrigued, like, what the fuck is this metal thing? Because I already knew Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo.
Yeah.
And dude, when they released the poster with all the other versions of Batman, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I was so excited for it. And you're gonna what?
I was gonna say too, like another friend of mine, Tavon. I don't know if he also listens to the podcast. Hey, look, I don't care who or doesn't, but Tavon, a friend of mine in Big Five, he also saw me, I think, reading it or reading about it, and I was like, what is this Dark Knight's Metal? Do I see fucking was it Wonder Woman riding like a dinosaur or something? Like, it was one of those images, and he was like, damn, I gotta get into this. It sounds really fucking cool. And it's like, yeah, right? It sounds really fucking awesome. And that's how he started getting into comic books. It was right around the time the Dark Knight's Metal came out. And that just shows you the power that Scott Snyder has. Is like, even after all the New 52 stuff, when he came out with Dark Knight's Metal, a lot of people were so intrigued. And even newcomers, too.
Dude, this is how we were so excited. We went to a midnight release for it.
I know. Right?
We went so kind of late. Like, they were about
to midnight, right?
They were closing. Yeah, but we got like one of the weaker covers.
Because we made up for it, though.
Because we wanted the fucking devil horns.
The metal horns.
But we went there. We had to read it. You read it that night.
I read it the same night, and I was like, "Yeah, no, this thing is fucking awesome."
Yep. Yeah, and I think the next day, we went to different comic book stores and we picked up number ones left and right, especially I got that signed. Sorry, I got excited. I got that one signed at the Metal Horns
by Greg Capullo. Man.
And it's just stupid. I was looking at them. This is a cool cover. Why does it look so familiar? It kind of looks like devil horns, but it was like it's not.
It's
probably,
in my head.
Yeah.
You know that.
Until he confirmed it, like that was he made devil horns. Like that's so fucking ingenious, man. And
Only Greg Capullo, man.
that's also a cover that he was fighting for because they didn't want that. DC. It's like, come on, come on, this is fucking cool as a cover. And it proves to be correct that people love that one. Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite Greg Capullo covers. Is that
Me too, man. Me too.
It's just to show like whoever is running DC or Marvel, like let your guys do what they need to do. They know what they're doing, man.
Yeah.
And it showed with this big event with Metal. I
mean, it was popular enough that they made a sequel to it with Death Metal. And that was fucking. It was just as good, I think, as the Dark Knight's Metal, and the covers were so fucking awesome. And you could tell that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were having fun with these two. The opening, I think even Scott Snyder talked about it, like of Death Metal, starts off with Sergeant
Rock,
Rock, right?
Yeah.
And now he's just talking to basically talking to the reader, like, here, look, this is what's going down. Just so you guys know, buckle in, it's going to be a fucking hell of a ride.
Well, it's just to show, like, even he says it's a great jumping point for anyone,
Yeah.
It's just basically it is a batshit crazy of a story, and it's a great story at that, too,
Yeah.
Like, when they announced the sequel, dude, I was so excited again. Like
Me
that
too.
same feeling
Me
when
too.
I got the first Metal. I even texted you like, Albert, it's confirmed, it's happening. Like this is
No,
crazy.
I texted Tavon too. Told him like, dude, they're making a sequel called Death Metal, and I was like, oh, really? They showed him one of the covers and everything. And
But yeah,
wow.
like, want to talk about what Death Metal is, or
Honestly, dude, I don't know if I can even explain Death Metal because it really has to do with Scott Snyder's run with Justice League as well. And that's going to take a whole fucking video to really explain. But
kind of like how Scott Snyder talked about it.
yeah,
You don't want to do it like he did it, like talk about it.
I don't know if I can do it with Death Metal or Dark Knight's Metal.
Dark Side's Metal, not the second one.
Oh, not the second one?
Oh.
The first one, isn't it? So yeah, it's basically the main villain of it is Barbados, right? He's coming to fuck shit up or whatever. But not only that, they find out that there's a dark multiverse that's kind of a reflection of the like our universe and everything. And in that dark multiverse exists different planets where different versions of Batman succumb to their own fear. So there's a version of Batman out there in this dark multiverse where he fears Superman instead of having him as a friend. Is like, I should fear him as the enemy that he is, as the alien that he is. There's another planet where he actually ends up killing the Joker and becomes the Joker. There's one where he fucking kills the Flash, right? He ties him onto his Batmobile and drives at the speed of light or something like that, or uses to get to like the Speed Force or something. And he turns into fucking Death Machine.
No, I mean Red Death.
Oh, sorry, Red Death. Death Machine is with Cyborg. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, it's just all these different versions of Batman with all these different fears that he has attached to it, and all these different, I guess you could say, Batmen show up and start wreaking havoc alongside Barbados. And oh my god, fuck, it's such a good story. Well, one thing that I really liked, I don't know if it's in issue 3 or 4, but this is how fucking crazy it is. They introduce a weapon called the Five-Finger Death Punch. And it's like a fucking gauntlet that Batman uses to fight with. And it's like, if you're a metal fan, you know that that's a direct reference to the Five-Finger Death Punch, the band. So you just know that they're just cutting loose, and just having fun.
Yeah. And
it shows, man. It's so fucking good. And like you said, it's a great starting point, too, for anyone who hasn't read Batman. Like, you might be a little lost, but just, if you collect the entire collection
I would
of
say
it.
the omnibus, right?
The omnibus, yeah, it has everything in there that you need to know, and it is fucking great. From beginning to end, you're just hooked, So, I fucking love that, man.
Yeah,
I think that was really
dude,
one of my favorite moments as a comic fan, man.
they just took over for us, man. Like for a whole month or two, like even the spin-off issues.
We had to get everything
Right.
connected. And I think that was the only time we ever did that.
Yeah.
Where we picked up Teen Titans because that's connected to that. We picked up
Green
fucking
Arrow,
Aquaman, all this
Nightwing,
shit.
yeah.
And it's like we have to do it because this is how good the story is, and we need to know the entire complete story.
Like you said, yeah, we got your friend Tavon into it, and we had him to collect the spin-offs too.
Yeah.
The spin-offs, like for each Batman, like
Yeah, their origin story, right? The foil covers are so fucking great.
Right?
We're getting too carried away here because this is about Scott Snyder.
This is how big that year was. That same year, Doomsday Clock came out too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the first few issues came out. Yeah.
So that was a big year for us, for comic book
For
fans.
comic book fans, you know you're spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it was fucking worth it, dude.
And Death Metal is mostly like Wonder Woman's story.
Yeah. It's no longer about Batman. I think he doesn't even show up that much in the story. It's about Perpetua, I think her name is, and also the Batman Who Laughs, but he gets transformed to something different. But yeah, it's Wonder Woman's story, and they also let loose because she has fucking like a chainsaw and shit. And
Dude, come on,
how can you not want to read that shit, right? Like just for that alone, fucking Batman's wielding the black ring. Oh my god! And he raises the dead. It's just so fucking. It screams metal.
Like, look up images, dude, and alone with the images, it grabs you.
From Greg Capullo.
Yeah, Greg Capullo, like even for Death Metal, is that the one you? It's the first issue was I think it was made by David Finch. It's the one where Batman is in his fucking like motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then Wonder Woman has her chainsaw, and you see Superman with the Doomsday hand or whatever. Like, my God, what the fuck are we gonna get into again?
Yeah.
You know,
it's just so much craziness all in those covers, and you're just like, I gotta see what the fuck's going on.
Like I was telling you, like if it wasn't for them pushing the envelope with Dark Knight's Metal, you know how crazy it was in a fun way. You wouldn't see these other events that we saw, like Absolute Carnage, King in Black, Deceased.
Donny Cates even said that he got influenced by Scott Snyder with Dark Knight Death Metal and how he opened it, and he did the same thing with King in Black, or King in Black, and it was so cool to see how quickly he just influenced the entire comic book industry,
right,
with those comic books. And I feel like we're gonna have to retitle this Creator Spotlight Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, because without those two, we wouldn't have those stories that we have, like Absolute Carnage or King in Black. They really set the pace for others to fucking follow and kind of push their limits too. So I mean, how can you not fucking love that?
Like they're still even working with the together, man. Greg and Scott.
With some independent stuff too. Yeah.
Well, we're getting there, but like to me, like if it wasn't for them doing that, just saying like let us do our thing and see how it's gonna work out, we wouldn't have those other big events. Even Dark Ages is one of them that I feel like.
Yeah. So, without that, we wouldn't have Dark Ages. You're right. No, you're right. Because that's when Marvel's starting to get a bit dark too. You know, they're starting to lean in a little bit more to the darker shit.
So it's like even this is a little, like with King of Black first issue, not major, but one of the characters dies. He gets ripped in half, and they showed that to Marvel, and Marvel's like, "No, you tone it down a little bit. It's kind of graphic."
Yeah.
They tone it down. They're still like, well, I don't know. We should still, if you guys could keep that.
Yeah.
And they fought for it too. Like I don't get that till at this day and age. Like just listen to your writers, listen to your artists. Like let them do what they have to do, and they're gonna turn into a great story.
They're gonna turn water into wine.
Yeah,
come on.
So it's like we can keep going on and on. Like with his work. But
yeah, because I mean, there's some that we haven't even mentioned, like Last Night on Earth, which is also another reunion with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo.
That's Not on Earth. Oh yeah,
And it was kind of also, I think they even said it too, was like our true end to the New 52 kind of version, because I think it takes place in that same timeline and everything. But also an amazing, incredible book. And that's the thing I love about Scott Snyder, is he throws these stories at you, like he pitches it to you, and you're just like, yeah, I'm fucking, take my money, but I'm in. And you don't even know like what exactly he's talking about. Like Last Night on Earth, picture Batman walking in a fucking wasteland wearing a straight jacket, holding a fucking basically like a jar with Joker's head in it. And you're like, all right, I'm in. Just fucking tell me this story that you're talking about. That's all he really needs to do. Picture Batman in a fucking, with a coat and a scythe. Oh, fucking, I'm sold.
Yeah, right.
Show me this story right now. Like, that's what I love about Scott Snyder, is he pitches you these ideas, sometimes with the cover alone, with like Greg Capullo, and you're just sold. That's what I love about those two, is more than anything, they hook you in with these stories. And yeah, some might not be as good maybe as you thought or whatever, but they're really trying their best to tell something original and fresh, you know. Anything left to add before we...
Yeah, I just want to add that he also is like a mentor. He's teaching at the DC.
Yeah.
He's like teaching classes for these new upcoming writers. And there's already one that's already out there, you know, kicking ass, chewing bubblegum.
Duke Nukem. So, no, just kidding.
No, his name is James Tynion.
Which we've talked about on the show too, and we will probably do a
which was I kind of him too.
Yeah.
Kind of blew my mind, like, oh shit.
But it makes sense. Doesn't I even told you when you told me that, I was like, it makes sense. His fucking dialogue is always so long.
Kind of right, yeah.
He writes like Scott Snyder, which isn't a bad thing, but I'm just saying, like, that makes sense now. And
it's cool because he talks about it, like, I'm so proud of him. Like, he's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And he's writing, you know, great stories.
Yeah.
And it's so cool, like, knowing he came out of one of his classes. Yeah. And look at him now. He's like,
I know. He's fucking creating so much shit. You know, right? It's so fucking awesome.
Like, that might be the next one that we talk about, because he's so close to Scott, in that I feel like he's also transcending his own, like, impact of how he did with Scott Snyder. You know, I feel like his work's gonna be in the big screen or as a TV series. You know,
hopefully, man, that'd be so fucking cool to see Mima take as a movie or something.
Yeah, just throughout this podcast, all these stories that we mentioned, you know, you should pick up American Vampire. Oh, we didn't talk about Witches. Witches is another great one.
I know. We hadn't really covered mostly DC shit. But
he worked with the Jock again. With the Witches.
Yeah.
Oh my god, when I first read that, it was like I was scared.
Yeah.
Of the shit I was looking at.
It's fucking good, man. And he's done some short stories too that we probably should have made, like The Conjuring, I think you said, right? He did one short story, like The Conjuring. Stuff like that, but he's saying hopefully next year, this year that's coming up, he's gonna come back to Witches, because everybody loves that shit, and that's all they talk about. A sequel to that,
like,
man.
when the fuck you bring him in?
Yeah.
It's coming. I'm working on it. He's working with Jock again. And Witches is becoming a movie or series.
Yeah.
It's he
even wrote the screenplay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love to see it, man. I love it, especially as a fan, having been reading his shit. And
even Noctera got picked up.
Yeah, it's being an option too.
Like, Jesus,
so,
man. Sorry, before he's working on his own thing now. He's still working with DC and all that, but he made his own, like, website where he launches exclusively for comic knowledge.
Comixology?
Yeah. And his website's called Best Jacket Press.
Yeah, that's what it was called. Yeah,
If
Best
you go to
Jacket
his
Press, yeah.
website, like I guess you can buy the digital. I don't know if they're coming in.
I think they're coming as in trades
Later,
eventually,
right?
or hardcovers or something like that.
Because
So.
I'm really interested in the ones I saw in there. Like,
Oh
my
man,
god,
so many good ones, right?
the one with Greco Pulo. I saw a little like, it has a little video to it on his Instagram. I got hooked right away. Isn't
that what I mentioned from earlier, right?
And in his website, if you sign up to his newsletter or sign up to his subscription, I think he has one. I'm not sure. He teaches you how to write comics or how to write in general, basically. And recently, he had Donny Cates, in the video with him, and that's the one I want to see.
Yeah, me too.
Them two talk about how they write, that's what he's doing now. You know, if you're more interested in reading him, look him up on YouTube. You know, he talks about how to write, right?
Yeah,
he has a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
His interviews are interesting. How he started and
Yeah.
more in depth in his stories. So yeah,
Hopefully, we've given you guys sort of like a peek into his work, and how he's kind of influenced us and me personally as well as a writer. I don't know. He's inspired a lot of confidence in me to really believe in my own work, and that's why I'm very confident in what I'm writing with my book and with just anything that I do. And I owe a lot to him and his work, because I think it inspired me to be the writer that I am today. So yeah, Scott Snyder is our first creator spotlight, and hopefully we'll do more of these with comic book writers and like video game stuff.
Scott
too.
Snyder and Greg Capullo.
Yeah, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, you're right. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Two Brothers. Hope you guys are enjoying what we're putting out. We mentioned it before. We know that the fucking audio is not amazing, and
We're working on it.
we're working on it. Yeah, so just be patient with us. But yeah, please, tell your friends, and hopefully we've gotten at least one person into comic books out there, because that's really all we care about, man. We're not really looking for views. We're not really looking for mainstream attention or anything like that. This is just a podcast for us to shoot the shit. And
not like you were saying, like if someone picks up any of the books recommended, or just pick up one in general, and when you're done reading that, it's nice having a conversation with someone else that read that.
Yeah,
just like just having that conversation is great. And I want to thank everyone who just listens to it. Even if one person likes it, two people like it, that's all I really care about. And stay positive in those comments, guys. Let us know what you guys think about our episodes, video games, and shit like that. And we'll see you guys on the next one. It's been Two Brothers.
Two Brothers.
Two Brothers.